Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are going to start learning Torah Kuf Ayin Tes in Likkutei Moharan Chelik Aleph, and tonight's shir is going to be Le'ilui Nishmas Dov ben Tzvi Zev. Dov ben Tzvi Zev, Neshama Shel and Ali, and it should be a Melitz Yosher for Klal Yisrael. And so Be'ezras Hashem, when it comes to talking about Yom Kippur, in the Torah of Rabbeinu, it seems to kind of get covered over ever so slightly by the hyper emphasis on Rosh Hashanah. And it's brought down in Siach Sarfei Kodesh, that Rabbi Nachman said that my inyan is Rosh Hashanah, but the inyan of Yom Kippur belongs to Rabbi Nassan. And Rabbi Nassan's avoda was very much connected to Yom HaKippurim. There was Hisoirus that the Talmidim would have when they remembered being by Rabbi Nassan on Erev Yom HaKippurim. There were Hasidim who would go even to Rabbi Nassan's kever on Yom Kippur, not to be by the tzaddik on Rosh Hashanah, but to be by the Talmud of the tzaddik on Yom HaKippurim. And even though Rabbi Nassan passed away after Yom Kippur, what the Hasidim remember is that the last words on his lips were that the entire inyan of Rabbi Nassan is the inyan of slicha and kapara, is the recognition that there is nothing that a yid can do that they can't find forgiveness for. And really, like the Talmud Hachai, like the Talmud Muvhak of the Tzaddik, Yoshua, the moon, the process of Nishmas Klal Yisrael represented by Rabbi Nassan, it was the basic understanding that if Rabbi Nachman taught the secret of a beginning, the secret of Rosh Hashanah, what happens after Rosh Hashanah? What happens when a person falls away from the light of Rosh Hashanah and they fall into concealment of their mind and they need the Tahara Samikva and they need the Tahara that they already forgot about from Rosh Hashanah? So that's the secret of Rabbi Nassan, who's going to show how all of the inyanim that have happened in the past can be sweetened. That's the process of Yom Kippurim. Everything can be wiped away. Everything can be fixed. Everything can be rectified. And that's the secret of Rabbi Nassan's avoda, of giving us the koyach of the tzaddik. The tzaddik says, Ani nahar hamitaher mikolak tamim, the light of my Torah, the light of the spiritual influence that you might receive from my teachings, are mitaher mikolak tamim. They purify from all stains. And as we know, Rabbi Akiva says, Ashreichem Yisrael lifnei miatim mitarim umim mitar eschem. Praiseworthy are you, Klal Yisrael, in front of whom are you purified, and who purifies you? It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rabbi Nassan hears Rabbi Nachman teaching this idea of Ani Nahar HaMitayer Mikolak Tamim, that the Torah of Rabbeinu has the ability, the beginning of Rabbeinu's Torah has the ability to rectify everything, and Rabbi Nassan draws that Koach of Rosh Hashanah into Yom HaKippurim. But we'll see in this Torah in particular why the avoda of Yom Kippurim has so much to do with the past, with rectifying the past. As opposed to building for a future, it's about letting go of all of the baggage and allowing ourselves to fly without any of the weight of the burdens of disappointments or shame from the previous years. So Be'ezras Hashem will enter into the Torah itself. Torah Kuf Ayin Tes. Zok the Heilige Rebbe, Da. And like we said, Da, whenever Rabbi Nachman starts with Da, it means that you're about to hear something deeply radical, but it's also going to be revealed as an intuitive truth that you've always already known. It's a Torah that's coming to reveal something that is imprinted in the very coding of our soul, but not revealed until we read those markers or those words or those signs given to us by the tzaddik. Da, shekeneged kol mine machlokas, hein begashmias, hein beruchnias, she'enu yochel hispalel o la'asos ma shetzarech ba'avodas Hashem, ki hakol bechlal machlokas. So Rabbi Nachman takes the concept of machlokas and abstracts it from simple disagreements or argumentations with other parties and reveals it to rest at the very foundation of all things, which Rabbi Nachman also discusses in Torah Samach Daled, that Simsum is the shorish of all machlokas. That machlokas applies in physical reality as well as in spiritual reality. And it's not just with other people. Anytime she'enu yochol hispalil o la'asos ma shetzarech ba'avodas Hashem, anytime I feel that I'm not able to carry out the acts that I need to do in Avodas Hashem, to fulfill what I need to fulfill in this moment, to pray properly, to reach out vulnerably to Hashem, all of that is included within the rubric of machlokas. When we talk about machlokas, the fact that there is a chiluk, there's something that's pushing back against what it is that I want to try and do. There's something that's pushing back against my sense of my ability to do something. So if I want to come and daven and I want to come and serve Hashem, and there's a part of me that's saying, no, I can't daven and I can't serve Hashem, so that's the machlokas that's taking place within me, and that's all nichlal in the general principle of machlokas, the argumentation and the separation and the fissure that rests between two things. What's the shorish of machlokas? The shorish of machlokas are all of the things in reality that stand against me following through with my desire, what it is that I want to do. A person wants to do something. There's something that a person feels that they need to accomplish in a physical, spiritual, psychological, emotional way. And anytime that there's a prevention, anytime that there's something that's preventing me from being able to do it in that smooth way without distortion, is what I'm going to consider as a machlokas. It's something that stands against my will. It's something that makes me feel like my self-will is not getting its expression. It's not finding its way. Ukidei levatal ha-machlokas. But how does one mevatal that machlokas? How does one learn to undo the inner machlokas that blocks me from moving forward, the machlokas that I feel that the world is throwing against me or that Hashem is throwing against me? So how do I get rid of that machlokas me'eze bechina shetihya ula'aso shalom? How do I generally deal with machlokas? We're not talking about the particularities of machlokas. Each machlokas has its own particular way of treating it. But over here, Rabbi Nachman is asking the general eitzah. How does one undo the machlokas? Because we're not looking at machlokas anymore as just a social issue, when someone else is creating a discrepancy in my life and now it's me versus them, or a group versus that group. But rather the abstraction of the concept of machlokas and the revelation that it can apply within my life as well. So then the question is, how do I get rid of all of the machlokas? How do I undo this? How do I draw down shalom? The goal of not having a machlokas is not simply to not be bothered, but rather the ikar tachlis of all things is shalom. Shalom and machlokas are paradoxical opposites that reveal two sides of the same coin. A person can find their life in a state of machlokas, but I just don't like machlokas, so I want to get rid of the machlokas. That's not rooted in an idealization of life that tells me that there's a way of living with a sense of unity. I'm just tired of living with the disunity at the heart of myself. That's one perspective of overcoming machlokas. But the true perspective of overcoming machlokas is that forget about the fact that machlokas is terrible in any circumstance. What I truly want is shalom. I want the das of shalom. I want to be able to draw down the loftiest level of godly consciousness, which is my capacity to make room for opposites within my life. The capacity to make room and expand myself and to give shape to all of the opposition and to realize that everything's okay. Everything is a das shel shalom, which is the das of Mashiach, referred to as the sar shalom. So we don't only want to get rid of machlokas, but we want to get rid of machlokas for the sake of la'aso shalom, to live in peace with ourselves and with reality. So Zot Rabbi Nachman, al zeh tzarech tainus. In order to get rid of machlokas in a person's life, a person needs to encounter tainus, fasting. Now, when it comes to a Torah about Yom Kippur, everything that's being said about fasting is explicitly about fasting. But when it comes to any other day of the year, there is a bechina of fasting. Yes, for a person who fasting is a healthy thing, it's a physiological beneficial thing, it's something that helps overcome the base desires that a person has to show them that they have the capacity of overcoming immediate gratification and tempering their cravings. So then tainus is a good thing. Tainus for the sake of punishing the self, tainus for the sake of feeling that I'm unworthy and therefore I have to suffer. That Rabbeinu said already from the time of the Baal Shem Tov was no longer the path, except for particular tzaddikim who need that mahalach. Tainus for the sake of the body, tainus for the sake of gaining control over self, that's a good thing. Intermittent fasting, whatever degree that is coming back into consciousness nowadays as a beneficial act for the body, so then tainus is something that a person should engage in. And on Yom Kippur, obviously, the ikar is the tainus as well. But when any other part of our lives, tainus is an aspect as well. There's a bechina of tainus. A bechina of tainus is overcoming the desire for immediate gratification and holding myself back, setting a limit for myself. Zakt Rabbeinu. Zeh ma she'amru Rabbeinu Zachonim el-Barcha. The fact that a tainus is going to be the remedy for all machlokas and to draw down shalom and peace with all separation, Chazal have already said, marbet tzedakah, marbet shalom. That if a person increases their charitable expression, if a person gives to others, reneges on self-interest and expresses themselves for other people, marbe shalom, in accordance with the level of the bittul and the self-nullification that comes with giving over something that I've worked hard for, and I give it over to the other, which is the shorish of Mesiras Nefesh, doing something for another person. So in that way, I'm going to be marbe shalom. I'm going to draw out shalom. And so Rabbi Nachman says, so now we have two things that seem to be bringing shalom. Tainus brings shalom, and tzedakah brings shalom. So Rabbi Nachman says, as the Torah of Bechina reveals to us, tzedakah hi bechinas tainus. It's not that these are two separate halachos in shalom, that you can either find shalom by way of tzedakah or you can find shalom by way of tainus, but rather inherent within the act of tzedakah and the act of tainus is the lumdus of the same exact thing, which is the ability to overcome machlokas and enter into a place of shalom. Tzedakah and tainus both represent the same thing. Why? Why is a tainus a tzedakah? What's the association between fasting and refraining from participating in what one feels they must participate in, and the notion of being charitable, giving something of myself over? Ki ikar hatainus hu tzedakah, because the main purpose of the tainus is the charitable act within it. So not only are tzedakah and tainus inherently connected, the essential nature of a tainus, the essential nature of overcoming self-desire through the act of a fast, is one and the same with the act of charity. K'maimer Chazal, like Chazal have told us already, igra de ta'anisa tzidkasa. The main purpose, the main goal, the main benefit that emerges out of a tainus is the secret of tzedakah. And so now Rabbi Nachman, after showing that their tzedakah and tainus really represent the same thing, in truth, tzedakah is the apex of the expression inherent within the fast. So Rabbi Nachman is now going to explain why that is. So Zakt Rabbeinu. Ki bechinas ha-machlokas hu ratzon acher. What's a machlokas? Like we said, a machlokas is when there appears to be various wills that are pushing against my desire in this world. Preventions that are blocking me from getting what it is that I want. Things that prevent me from reaching the place that I feel I need to be at. So anytime there's ritzonos acherim, there's other desires in the world that are pushing back against me or what it is that I want, that's the inyan of machlokas, because anytime I enter into the world or I try and accomplish something, I'm going to feel like the entire world is pushing back against me, and I'm going to feel like there are all these other ritzonos, these other wills that the language we use is that God had another will or that the world had another will, right? It's all of the things that we used to describe that things didn't go the way we wanted them to go. Sha'omdim alav levatel ritzono. All of these various forces, conscious, unconscious, from others, projected, whatever it might be, the million voices that we live with, all of those things seem to be standing against me to be mevatel my ratzon, to undo what it is that I want to feel that I need to accomplish. And that's where I encounter the feeling of machlokas, because everywhere I look, there's just another thing blocking me from accomplishing my own desire. And the segula of the tainus, segula satainus, Isa Bazoar, the Zohar Kadosh says, and it's not the outcome of the tainus. The tainus is an action that brings with it certain outcomes, but the segula of the tainus is that the tainus is just a poel dimyoni, it's a pretend act that awakens a spiritual reaction from far beyond our capacity of grasp. That's the secret of the segula. The secret of the segula of the tainus, the Zohar Kadosh says, when it comes to Yom Kippurim, be'etzem hayoim hazeh ta'anuas nafsho seichem, that specifically in the essence of this day itself, you should afflict your nefesh. Shema'alas hatainus la'achna'a liba ule'istav keru'usa deliba l'kutshe berichu. Zok tehilek Zohar Kadosh, what is the maila of a tainus? The maila of a tainus is that it helps me be mevatel and make the desires of my heart smaller and be machnia myself and give in to the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to minimize the strength and the force in which my heart wants to express itself for the sake of le'istav keru'usa deliba l'kutshe berichu, for the sake of connecting the innermost point of desire of the heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the ru'usa deliba, the highest part of the self, the hiskalos of keser within the heart itself, ratzon in the heart. That's what's niskala on Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippurim's entire inyan is the gilu of keser within Malchus, the inyan of ratzon within the heart itself, higher than machshava. It's the illumination of our emotional expression with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that bond of simply asking for slicha and realizing that there's a loving relationship there. that al yedei hatainis, that through the tainis, what's the segula of the tainis? Nichne v'nechla shalev. What happens in actuality is that the heart is softened and weakened, which means that the ritzonos of my heart are now not going to be in as full expression. They're going to be minimized. V'nispatel kol haritzonos ha'acherim shalom mipnei ratzon hakadosh baruch hu. And the only thing that I want is the salvation and the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All of the other myriad voices and ritzonos of my lave, which are not even mine, but they're borrowed from all of the voices and all of the baggage. When we let go of that through the tainus on Yom Kippurim and we're mapshit ourselves from the levushim and all of the levushim, and all we focus on is the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in order to attach the innermost point of our hearts to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's going to be the secret of what the tainus enables me to do. And when I'm able to get rid of all of the other desires in my heart, I'm able to get rid of the machlokas. Because what's machlokas? Machlokas is when there are other things that are pushing back against what I feel my heart needs to accomplish. I have a ratzon. I face the day with a ratzon. There's something I feel I need to do today. And anything that stands in my way is going to be considered as an enemy, and I'm going to find myself caught up in a maze of a million enemies. But when I'm machnia my lave and I silence all of the various warring desires of what my heart feels it needs to accomplish today, and I focus in on the particular thing that remains, which is the connectivity of the innermost point of my heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through that I'm not going to encounter all of the prevention because I don't have any other ratzon other than connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. By silencing my self-will, which now is going to minimize all of the situations that make me feel like my will is not being satisfied, that's where the machlokas is going to stop. I'm going to stop feeling so attacked. Shehi bechinas ritzonos achirim shelo kiritzono. The machlokas is the element of ritzonos achirim when I feel that other people are imposing their will against my own will, and therefore I feel like I'm in a state of machlokas. Kamosha amru rabbeinu zechronam lebracha. Like Chazal have already told us this equation. Batel ritzoncha mipnei ritzono. When I get rid of all of my will, when I get rid of all of the things that I feel I need to accomplish, and I center my mind on the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Ritzon Yirei of Ya'aseh, on the secret point of being mavata myself completely to whatever it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to happen to me, I silence my will, and therefore my will is not going to meet any resistance because I've transformed my will into His will. And when I transform my will into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, Memela mevatel Ritzon Acherim mipnei Ritzoni. The Ritzon of Acherim are going to be mispatel. Why? It's not that, oh, if I do this thing for Hashem, Hashem is going to have my back and get and have everybody else accomplish what it is that I want. Adrabah, ipcha mistaber, when I let go of self-will run riot and I hyper-focus in on the one thing that is in my control, which is the sacrifice of the Re'usa Deliba to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mamela, anything that happens is the Ratzon of Hashem. Mamela, there's nothing that I'm at machlokas with. I'm in a place of shalom. I'm living with a das of shalom. There's nothing that can knock me down. I don't care about anything. Because whatever it is that's happening is being mekusher myself to the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so, just to reread it through the words of Rabbeinu, that through connecting the innermost point of our heart, al kain al yedei zen nispatel hamachlokas. We get rid of machlokas, she bechinas ritzonos acherim shelo kiritzono, which is the aspect of the will of others that seems to go against my will. Kamosha Amru Rabbi Seina Zachornu Bracha, like Chazal have taught us, what we have to do is batal ritzoncha b'pnei ritzono. That I have to nullify my will and identify with the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that whatever it is that is taking place, I can find the nekuda pnimius of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon there. In that way, I will get rid of the will of others that seem to be blocking my will. And through entering into the secret of the tainus, Al kain nispatel ratzon acherim mipnei ritzono v'nispatel hamachlokas v'naseh shalom. So Rabbi Nachman says there's no greater way of showing the hispatelis of my will, getting out of my self-interest, like deciding not to eat because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has told me not to eat, or deciding to not do something simply because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has said to not do something, or understanding the need to overcome the base desire of the self and the abandonment of self towards its natural proclivity simply because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has told me through his tzaddikim that that's what he wants me to do. When I enter into the secret of tainus, memela, I am doing what Hashem wants and not what I want, because the human being is an animal, and the human being wants what it wants. As we've quoted before in the name of the Heilige Chazon Ish, that in truth there's only one general positive quality and one general negative quality, and both of them are rooted in the same area. The negative quality is as follows: Haznacha sachayim lezerem hativi, the abandonment of life to the natural proclivity of the self, the feeling that I must give in to whatever my natural desire, my physiological, emotional, spiritual desire is telling me that needs to happen right now. When I live without restraint, when I live without ever bending my will to do something that I don't feel I want to do, and only placing myself in places that will make me feel good, then I am working towards my will. Sure, sometimes the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will align with my will because HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ultimate will is the tainug for Bnei Yisrael. But ultimately, it's very often self-serving. But when I turn myself around, and I make a decision, to let go and do something specifically for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at that point, I've already been nispatel my ratzon, and at that point, the ratzon of others is going to be nispatel, and that's going to get rid of the machlokas, which is how the tainus leads to getting rid of machlokas. Al yedei hatainis kvar nispatel ritzono mipnei ratzon Hashem yisbarach k'nizkalael, va'al kein nispatel ratzon acherim mipnei ritzono. Because when I have no other will other than the will of God, so then nobody else's will is going to get in my way. V'nispatel machlokas, and I live machlokas free. V'nasa shalom, and now I have a das of shalom because there's literally nothing that's moving against me. I've aligned my will with the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like Rabbeinu says in Sichos Haran Os Beis, that a very good eitzah prior to the Yamim Tovim is to say, Hareini mashlich alecha, avi malki velokai, es kol tnu osai machshavotai ritzonotai diburayu masai, shali shalishti, shali eladai, v'shal kol anivim elai, shakol yeh kirtzoncha ve'emes. That everything, my family, everything that is dependent on me should only be your will. And once I acknowledge that, then I don't have to worry so much about what's going to be happening. I'm not operating in a mindset of machlokas because there's nothing I need to get done. I just have to align my will to the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when I do that, I'm already living in a place of das shel shalom, k'nizkal el, as we stated above. And this is pshat in marbet tzedakah, marbet shalom. That the more tzedakah I have, tzedakah and tainus is the same thing because tzedakah, Rabbi Nachman explains elsewhere, there's nothing that I work harder for than monetary and financial security in this world. Each and every person is trying to protect themselves on the most basic level of human needs. A person goes out with Mesiras Nefesh into the realm of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, into the realm of upside down nature of lies and people and all of the distortions of the capital, whatever it is. And we do that for the sake of Benafshenu Yavu Lachmo, that we go in with the full element of ourselves just to fight for a piece of bread. Sometimes it looks fancier, sometimes there's different titles, but that is what avoida is. That is the klala of b'zeas apecha tocha lechem. And giving of my hard-earned keep, giving of that which is rightfully mine, and giving it to the other is the shoresh of coming to recognize that in truth, nothing is mine. Everything is yours, Rabbanu Shlalem. I don't have a will. Your will is for me to give tzedakah, so I'm going to give tzedakah. So when a person, that's the same inyan as a tainus, of just completely going against the very basic nature of the human experience at that moment and doing for the sake of God. And through that, I'm mevata my ratzon, and I draw down more shalom. V'zeh she'amru Rabbeinu Zachornim L'bracha. And this is what Chazal say when they say in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, Tzom HaRevi'i v'Tzom HaChamishi v'chulei yihiyu l'sasin u'lesimcha. So the Gemara asks the kasha. So how is it that these tzomos, these ta'anisim, are going to be referred to in the future as sason and simcha? Seemingly they're opposites. So krilei tzom, krilei sason v'chulei. The Gemara asks the kasha. Sometimes it's referred to as a tainus, and sometimes it's referred to as a place of joy. Ella kishe'ein shalom tzom. When there's no peace, it's a fast. So Rabbi Nachman sees in that Gemara a source text for identifying the fact that when I'm not in a state of shalom, then I need to enter into a fast in order to draw down shalom and enter into a place of simcha. Because when I'm in a state of machlokas, it means I have my own will. And when I let go of my will through the secret of tainus and I make myself okay with whatever it is that is happening, so in that place I'm mevata the machlokas. V'yesh machlokas azay tzom ki tzarich lezeh tainus. When there's a fast, I need to engage. When there is a machlokas, I need to engage in fasting, and when there's a fast, I need to undo machlokas. V'ayidei tainus nasa shalom, and it's through the tainus that shalom is going to come out. So let's see where Rabbeinu takes us next. Everybody with me so far on this? Yeah? Okay, Beseder, let's go weiter. The Azai, And when we learn this secret of being mavatel our ratzon, which is the secret of the tainus, to undo all of the hisnagdas that we feel, all of the imagined enemies and the real enemies. This works also for real enemies, because the ikr way of overcoming a real machlokas is just to stop fighting, as the Kedushas Levi says. That the ikr midah of nitzachon is just to stop fighting, and the other person's still fighting in their own mind, and that's them holding resentments, and that's them doing workout, because they think they're getting rid of something that has to do with me, and in truth, I'm not even thinking about that person. So when a person lives with a unified vision of Ratzon Hashem as the guiding principle at the core of their lives, and not Ritzon of their own heart, so at that place, all machlokas is going to be nispata, whether it's imagined or not imagined. Zok the Rebbe, Va'azai kisheyesh shalom sasan v'simcha. When I live with a place of shalom in my mind, when I'm past the machlokas, when I've been mevata my ratzon, it draws down sasan and simcha. It draws down enoughness. It draws down shleimus. It draws down satisfaction. It draws down joy and good-hearted experience, the opposite of deficiency, the opposite of being at war. Ki al yedei hatainis nivne komat v'chiyus hasimcha. In truth, says Rabbi Nachman, in a profound way, this entire mechanism of the tainus of being mevatel my ratzon for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon is in and of itself the process in which simcha is going to be built. Simcha is something that is built. Simcha is not something that emerges into the mind of the individual as if it's something that just comes about in an emotional state. Simcha is an avoida. There is an avoida to be besimcha. No tzaddik taught us that, like Rabbi Nachman ben Simcha. Rabbi Nachman ben Feger, Rabbi Nachman ben Simcha. The avoida, the heavy avoida that it takes to be in a place of simcha. So it's the tainus, the breaking of the self, the renegation on my own desires that builds the koma and the chayus of simcha itself. Ki ma'ala satainis. What is the ma'ala of the tainus? How is letting go of my desire through the secret of the tainus ma'orer simcha? Why is it ma'orer simcha? Ki ma'ala satainis she'ma'orer u'machaya mesim. So we see a number of steps here. The tainus, again, we understand what tainus is. It's letting go of desires of our own to live in a place of shalom, and the opposite of machlokas. And that draws down shalom. And then shalom draws down another level of sasan and simcha, which is living a good-hearted life of pure and innocent, silent, modest happiness, of an okayness and a satisfaction within oneself. And why is it that the tainus builds simcha for us? Because the tainus is also the element of machaya mesim. So we're going to see that the simcha that comes about through the tainus and the breaking of the self for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the element of machaya mesim. So, and simcha and machaya mesim are clearly going to be connected to one another. That simcha is going to be machaya mesim, and machaya mesim is going to be simcha. So we're going to see how that is. So what is the tchiyas mesim that takes place through a tainus? So listen to what Rabbi Nachman says here. Hainu hayamim sha'avru b'choshech. The things that are dead are the days that have passed in darkness. The dark days that have passed, those places of meaninglessness, those places of suffering, those places of absence, those places of giving into the animalistic desires of the self, of falling into yesh, days of darkness, which is a very, very powerful kind of non-descriptive description of what I only can imagine, I know from within my own self, but there are a number of days that fit into that category. Days of darkness, days that passed over through darkness. Ve'en lahem shum chayas, days of emptiness, days with no vitality, days with no connectivity. Ki kol yom v'yom nimshach alav shefa melamala. And Rabbi Nachman uses this idea in numerous places. Each and every day it's its own universe. Each and every day has the beginning and the middle and the end of all of history. You wake up in the morning, that's the creation of the day. You hit your midlife crisis at around lunchtime, that's the shviras hakelim and the process of the tikkun of the day. And when you put your head down at night and you say biyado afkid ruchi, that's the shleimus of that olam, and you've been mevar something and brought it back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Each day has its responsibility. Each 24-hour cycle. I heard in the name of this tzaddik from Svas who passed away suddenly over, I believe it was yesterday. He was an artist. He used to hold shalashidus. Rav Yoel Turgeman, Zchus Yogen Aleinu. I was reading an article that he had written, that was written about him in Mishpacha magazine. I'll share it afterwards. But he was describing just the nature of what reality was and what the nature of art is. And he described how the entire Jewish 24-hour cycle is rooted in 24 hours of different exposures to light. That each and every moment of the day is just another attempt to uncover more of the light that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has sent down for us in this particular day. And when I live a good day of good deeds and alignment with the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I do mitzvos and ma'asim tovim, so then I give life to that day. That day is a day of living. That day is an illuminated day. That's a day that's filled, that's purposeful, that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, that makes me feel okay in myself and allows me to rest comfortably knowing that I've done today's work. I'm a poel yomi, I'm a day worker, like the Maisa Mebitachon, like the secret of Yom Kippurim. All we have is one day in front of us. And when I have a good day, I can draw down a shefarav melamala, a shefarav melamala. Ach, says Rabbi Nachman, ach im chas v'shalom im eno osebo mitzvos. But if I don't validate that day, if I don't engage in that day properly, if I don't engage in the opportunity of that day and I miss out, the chait is lahachtiat hamatara, as the Lubavitcher Rebbe Slusa Ganalinu would point out, and Rabbeinu also points out, and Rabbi Nosson points out, that a chait is missing an opportunity, really. If I miss the opportunity of today, achim chas v'shalom im eno osebo mitzvos, if I don't spiritually connect myself to the day, as I eno yored elav shefa melamala, so I have not yet created the vessel to receive the light that's coming down from above. The light is always coming down from above. It's not that the light is not descending into the day. I haven't created a vessel to draw down that light. Ki im betzimtzum gadol ma'od. Adrabah, that day is going to feel profoundly constricted. It's going to be a dark day. It's going to be a day of boredom. It's going to be a day of elongation of time, where things are going to feel like they're moving so slowly that it's impossible to make it to the next moment without trying to figure out the quickest way to escape. And so on a day like that, with a tzimtzum gadol ma'od, where it's rak kedei chiyuno b'tzimtzum, where all HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending down is what is needed for me in that particular moment with no other expression. As I eno yored elav shefa melamala, ki im b'tzimtzum gadol ma'od. Ukeshu notel zahayom v'osa bo chas v'shalom ra. And when that day, instead of being a vessel to draw down more goodness, becomes a vessel of negativity, it becomes a day that drags me down to the earth, that makes me feel more hopeless about myself, that keeps me stuck in the negative and self-destructive patterns of thinking. As I moirid meinik moitzeitz hashefa hamaat sheyesh bazeh hayom ad shemotzeitz gam etzem hachayus sheyesh lahayom ba'atzmo milvad hashefa haba melamala davar yom biyomo. Ki kol yom hu bria v'yesh lo chayis atzmai milvad hashefa v'umotzeitz gam chiyutzo ha'atzmi shel hayom ad shenesharu hayomim halalu pegarim mesim. Rabbi Nachman is saying something so powerful right now, and I daven that I have the right words to properly convey what Rabbeinu is conveying over here. That what happens when I don't have a day that's empty, so then all I have is a minimal form of shefa. A good day draws down a long elongation of time, the ability to feel present in today, the ability to realize that I'm experiencing everything I could possibly need to experience. When I'm doing a mitzvah, there's no other element of hasaga that I should ever think is available. That is the spitz experience of Avodas Hashem. That's Yomim Tovim. That's a good day. Then we have a day that's choshech. Then we have a day that's not necessarily aligned or illuminated with positive activity. And I'm not drawing down more shefa into the day, but it's a day of darkness where all there is a tzimtzum. And then Rabbi Nachman explains another darga. Kishu notel zahayom v'ose bo chas v'shalom ra. But when the emptiness of the day turns into a day of negativity where I push myself down even deeper, as I moirid umeinik umoitzetz hashefa ha'ma'at sheish b'zahayom. So what I've done is I've drawn down and suckled off of and tried to draw out all of the minimal shefa that was there to begin with in this kind of medium, kind of bland day that was always there. Even if it wasn't a good day, there was still some semblance of functionality. But when I fall into darker places, I take any semblance of functionality or vitality or feeling okay about myself from that day, to the point that I actually take out the essential drop of life and vitality that day had. I take everything out of the day. I empty the day completely. It's not enough that I didn't feel that day. It's not enough that I didn't use the day as elevation, but there are days where I've drawn every ounce of strength and energy out of that day to the degree that nothing remains and a person feels literally like a dead body. In addition to the shefa that came above, not only did I cut off the shefa that came from above by not becoming a vessel through good actions or good living or alignment, aside from that shefa that didn't come down, ki kol yom hu bria, each and every day is a new creation. Yesh lo chayas atzmo milvad hashefa. There's the vitality of the day, and there's the additional expression that comes down to illuminate the day. Not only did I not draw down the illumination of the day, but I have taken from the essential expression of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted from that day. I've taken from it. I've stolen the shefa of that day. And that day almost becomes like a dead thing. Ad shenish'aru hayamim halalu pigarim mesim. There's dead days in our lives. There's graveyards of days, years, months of our lives where instead of drawing down the light of Emunah and living with a sense of okayness in this world, we've squandered the opportunity and we find ourselves stuck in not only not thinking about being okay, but feeling not okay and being stuck in all sorts of stuck places. Actually, like the metaphor of a child who is nursing from the mother, as long as the mother has milk, yoinek hachalav. So then the child is going to be drawing down from the chalav. But when the milk dries up, so then the suckling child is drawing down on something more essential, which is the life force of the mother herself. So that there's three ways of dealing with days: elevating the days towards goodness and bringing this day to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and realizing that this has been a good creation, Hashem. This day, I'm able to say Baruch Shahamar V'Haya Olaman. I'm able to say that I was Megalik Vod Shemayim more today than what was revealed for me at the beginning. I was Mamtik the Tzimtzum. I fixed everything. Then there's going to be medium days where there's an emptiness. It's not this or it's not that. There's no extra shefa coming down, but there's also no destruction. There's also no drawing out the life force. And then there's a day where we take the minimal form of shefa that HaKadosh Baruch Hu drew down into the world to give us some semblance of memory or connectivity. And not only that, we've destroyed that, but we've also gone to the shoresh because we're trying to take more and more. Ach al yedei tainus. Through a tainus, because Rabbi Nachman says tainus brings joy. Why does tainus bring joy? Because it's machaya mesim. So now we're going to see how a tainus is actually machaya mesim. The tainus is machaya mesim in the sense that it awakens the dead days of our lives, as we're going to see, and it reveals to us that we have the capacity of breathing new life into the dead days of our past experiences and renewing the meaningfulness hidden within them to make them valuable and reasonably important in our lives. Ach al yedei tainus, says Rabbeinu, through the act of tainus, through the act of being mevatel my ratzon to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by the act of overcoming my desires, I revive these days. V'hakol lefi tainus, the revival and the re-illumination of these days, and the breathing of life back into these days, which reveals that they were never actually dead, even when it appeared to be that we were drawing from the very foundation of them. The revival of these days is going to be in accordance with the self-nullification that's going to be expressed through the tainus. The more I have a ratzon, the more mevatel I am with my ratzon, the bigger the deal it is. That's Mesiras Nefesh Mamish. When I want something and I feel I need something, but I overcome that, and I reveal that I'm bigger than what I thought I actually was because I can do something I thought was impossible, and I realize that I can tolerate difficulty, and that difficulty is not impossibility. So the bigger the struggle is, the more days I'm going to revive. V'yesh lahavino begashmias. So Rabbi Nachman wants to say, I want to understand and I want to explain this metaphor of why a tainus is machaya mesim, why it revives dead days. He's going to explain it to us literally with the metaphor of physical fasting, but we're going to have to extrapolate that and apply it to the spiritual metaphor as well. The physical metaphor of fasting is when I'm actually not eating. The spiritual metaphor of fasting is when I'm engaged in the process of spiritual fasting, which is overcoming my self-interest and overcoming my base desires. So Rabbi Nachman says, Yesh lahavino begashmis. Let's understand that in accordance with the physical reality of fasting. Ki kishemitane, when a person refrains from eating, nimtza ein lo chiyus v'koyach mizahayom. If I am not providing myself renewed sustenance today, I'm not feeding myself more, so then the strength that my body is now going to function in accordance to today is not going to be from what I provide it with today, but it's going to be based on what was provided to it on previous days. Nimsa ein lo chayas v'koyach mizahayom. I have no chayas from this day. Me'achar she'ena ochel v'shotabo, because I haven't eaten or drinking anything today. Va'afal pikein oved es Hashem. But nevertheless, I'm still able to serve Hakadosh Baruch Hu today. I'm still able to focus my mind. I'm still able to have a good day. I'm still able to serve God in this day to find das. But where is that strength coming from? Nimtza, says Rabbi Nachman, she'oved Hashem b'koach sheyesh lo me'etmol. Right now, when I'm serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm not serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu based on the strength that I gave myself today, because I didn't give myself strength today. I'm fasting. Elama, I'm drawing on a strength that was hidden within the reservoirs of the self and the reserves of the self from previous days that have been dead. Ki below zeh me'ein lo koach. If I'm not drawing sustenance from sustenance that was drawn down into my life previous to this day, perhaps days that were considered dead, then there's no reasonable explanation as to where I would be drawing spiritual confidence and koach from today, because I'm going to fast. Nimsa, says Rabbi Nachman, she'oived hayoim b'koyach shel etmol, that I'm serving Hashem today based on the strength of yesterday. Yesterday, which was dead, is now being revived through the strength of today, which is alive. And when I'm engaged in utilizing the strength that comes from the backup reserves of many years ago, or previous lifestyles, or previous gilgulim, or the gilgulim of yesterday, when I draw strength from those places, what I'm doing is I'm dragging that dead day, that day of yesterday, which theoretically doesn't exist anymore, and I'm drawing it into the koyach of today, and I'm illuminating it with the vitality of today, that I'm serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the koyach of yesterday and drawing it into today. I revive that day of yesterday because I've now utilized it. I've called upon it. I've forced its strength that was present there to reveal itself, even though I didn't know I had strength there. And the more and more I fast, the more and more I refrain, the more and more I hold back from giving in. It's not enough to have the koyach that came from yesterday. The body has already grown tired in the tightness. Meaning to say, as Rav Moshe Wolfson, Tzchusa Ganalini used to say so much about Yom Kippurim, the ikaro shal yom be'etzem hayom hazeh is the tainus. Meaning to say, the tainus is the fullest expression of Yom Kippurim. Meaning to say, the harder the tainus gets, the more and more the essence of Yom Kippurim is revealed. So the more that I'm fasting, the more I need to call upon previous reserves of power to give strength to myself. And when the power and the energy and the spiritual vitality and the physical vitality of yesterday is no longer enough, because the body has already grown weakened, I have to retroactively go back into previous days, even prior to yesterday, and go back into those places which were seemingly dead, into the graveyards of my life, and I have to elevate that koach back into today. A person can engage in the secret of a tainus to such a degree that a person can utilize such strength that they have to go back to retrieve the energy that they received in their neshama from the time of their infantile stages. We have to go back to the time of being yonik mishtei imo. And when a person is capable of doing that, they've gone back on every element of their lives and they've drawn strength from every expression of the self and they've elevated back into Avodas Hashem. The Al-Kain, Al-Yidei HaTainis. Therefore, it's specifically through the tainus that we're nivna the kuma of simcha. We said that the tainus gives simcha, the tainus, which is letting go of my own self-will run riot and making space for others, reneging on self-satisfaction, maintaining the possibility of overcoming the drive of immediate gratification. That undoes machloket and it draws out shalom. And shalom is going to reveal simcha. Why is there simcha that comes from shalom? Because simcha is the result of tchias hamesim. So we just saw that the tainus is machaya mesim, because we have to retrieve koach that we thought was gone, but we're reviving it through the present moment and revealing that it was still very much alive in the secret of tchias hamesim. And that's going to reveal the kuma of simcha. Shu achayis v'anakudo shel kol mitzvos k'mevur b'makom acher. In Torah, hey, Rabbi Nachman describes how the ultimate purpose of this world is to find simcha in asiyas mitzvos, and that's the simcha that we're attaching ourselves to. We're uncovering the goodness and the vitality and the enoughness that we feel deeply hidden within ourselves anytime we find the nakuda tova. So here, Rebbe Nassan is going to explain that this was not explained as clear as possible. Zeha inyan lo be'er hetiv. This matter was not clarified. And again, we can say, okay, it was simply not clarified in the way that it needed to be clarified, or we can say that this matter could only be revealed in a way that is not fully clarified. This is the way that it could have been conveyed because it's such a lofty idea. Za inyan lo be'er hetiv, va'ikr, but the ikr, says Rabbi Nassan, sha'al yidei hatainis, by engaging in a fast, al yidei masha moitzi hakoyach shel kol yom v'yom sha'avar, by forcing myself to draw upon previous strength, previous moments, previous nekudos tovos from the past. This is very much connected to Reish Pei Beis, that no matter how far back I have to go, I'm going to find a day that had a nekuda tova. And it's through that I'm going to revive dead days. Hashem. And then I enter in with the deadness of those past days into avodas Hashem. Kol hayamim hamesim, and I bring life back into those days that have died. Shepagam mehem keniska la'el, those days that I blemished, those days that fell. Nivna hasimcha, and through this I'm going to draw simcha down. V'zeh shakasuv, and this is what the pasuk means: is samchenu ki moisani. Amazing. Samchenu ki sanu, that you will gladden us like the days of our affliction. Rabbeinu Haramchal teaches this to always mean that the days of our affliction and the days of concealment will be revealed retroactively to have always been days that were illuminated with light. We just couldn't see it until HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed it to us lemafreya. And that's exactly as Rabbeinu is reading it over here. Samchenu ki anisanu lashon tainis, that the joy is going to come out through the days that were like fasts, because the secret of the fast is the need to retrieve more and more koach from farther and farther back, to the point that I have to recall all of the good parts of myself. And by recalling all of the good parts of myself in order to give me strength today, I revealed that there were still good parts to myself in every previous moment, thereby reviving those dead days. That the revelation of simcha that comes about through the tchias hamesim and the revival of the dead days, and the revelation that what I thought was dead is in truth alive, which is the shorish of stoik and the shorish of simcha, it's going to be in accordance with the level of tainus that I'm engaged in. Ki kafiya mehatainis, the more and more I fast, the more and more I refrain, the more and more I overcome, the more and more strength I need to draw from the past. So too am I going to elevate those days with the koyach of the positive deeds that I'm engaged in today. And this is how joy is developed. The secret of joy is developed not from a sense that, oh, everything is fine, everything has always been fine, everything will always be fine. That's emunah. Emunah is not necessarily a place of simcha. Emunah is a place of bittul. Simcha is a place in bina. Simcha comes from the heart. It demands a recognition of the shifts. And oh my gosh, what I thought was one way is in fact going to be revealed to be the other way, and that's where the simcha is going to come from. It comes in accordance with the tainus. And this is what Chazal meant when they said shalom. When there's shalom as a result of the tainus, because I've gotten over my will and I've gotten over the machloket, so then there's going to be sason v'simcha, because sason and simcha comes about through tchias hamesim. Kshiyesh shalom, when there's peace, which means that I've engaged in the tainus properly. Hainu ayedei tainus keniska la'el. Ayedei zeh sason v'simcha. There's going to be joy, as the Gemara said in the Bechina of Samchenu ki sanu, that the joy is going to be uncovered like the days that we fasted. Kifiya mehatainis ken hasimcha. The more I overcome, the more I draw upon the kolchos of what I didn't even realize I had, days that I thought were dead and hopeless, and I draw out, revealing the quintessential light of Kedusha that existed in those days as well, because I'm drawing strength from them. I revive my past, literally through the present orientation towards the past. That's the secret of tshuva. And they become different days. They become days of joy. They become days of affliction that were in truth the setup for salvation. And this is pshat in the pasuk, Galmi ra'u einecha v'chulei yamim yitzuru, that I saw unformed matter in front of my eyes, days that were formed. Hatainis kein hasimcha. I'm sorry. Galmi ra'u einecha, my eyes saw unformed matter. Yamim yitzuru, days that were created. Meaning to say, says Rabbi Nachman, kol yom hu yitzira b'fnei atzmo. Each and every day is its own yitzira. Each and every day is its own existence. V'lo echad bahem. But to him, there's a singular one amongst them, which Chazal tell us is Yom HaKippurim, the secret of Yom HaKippurim. Kamosha Perish Rashi Sham, that there's a secret of Yom HaKippurim, which is the singular day of all of the days of the year. All of the days that have died, there's a singular day within them that has the capacity of reviving those days, which is the secret of Yom HaKippurim. Shu tainis shemachaya kol hayamim, The secret tightness of Yom Kippurim is the capacity to elevate all of our past days, to find slicha, to realize that every chait was an opportunity to realize the ahava, abilti tali bedavar of salachi kidvarecha. Of like Rabbi Nosson said that man ikr zach is Yom Kippurim because it's the secret of marbe choinin and marbe litzlayach. Chanun amar belitzlayach, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be soleach, he wants to forgive us, he wants there to be a hisgalus of yedidus. It reveals the potency that rested in every day when I accept forgiveness, when I can believe truly that we deserve to be forgiven, when each and every one of us accepts the forgiveness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of salachti kidvarecha, so then we're machaya all of the days. Ki Yom Kippurim hu klalis kol hayamim. Yom Kippurim is the central day of all of the days. Va'alav ne'emar, and the pasuk says, "Be'etzem hayom hazeh ta'anu es nafshay seichem." That in the essence of this day, the essence of the day is the fast. The day is the fast of the year. Hainu haritzonos, the nefesh is the ratzon. Every element of ratzon that seems to be going against a person in their lives, all of the reasons for why we feel things are not going right, that's what we're getting rid of. That's what we're getting rid of, all of our ritzonos. And we're identifying with the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem Elokim, which is the tachlis of Yom Kippurim, like it says in the Zohar HaKadosh, that we're getting rid of all of the other ritzonos, and we're connecting our ratzon of the Ru'usa Deliba to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. La'achlala kula gufa v'nafsha, to include and make unity between my body and my soul, to reveal that the soul is a body and the body is a soul. La'achana b'hayuma, to soften the heart on that day, and that in truth on this day the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be awoken. Kesher should be niskala within our hearts of bina. Ki nefesh hu b'chinas ratzon, because the nefesh is the b'chin of the ratzon. The ikru lachnia haratzon, and when I can fast and when I can get over my self-interest. Rabbi Nachman brings it back. He says the ikr here is getting over the self-will run riot. All of the feelings that I have that this is how things have to go, and this is how things have to be, and this is how they have to be, and this is how I have to be seen. When I let go of all of those ritzonos and I recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let it be your will. Yehilu ratzon milfanecha. Yiratzon milfanecha, it should be your will, Rebbeinu Shlalem. Then I'm machnia my ratzon and I'm mevatel all of the machlokas. V'zeh be'etzem hayom hazeh, and this is the essence of that day. Ayidei pnimius ha'atzmius shel hayom, the inner interiority of Yom Kippurim. That nekuda of ratzon elyon shu kolum mikol hayomim ta'anu v'chulei k'nizka la'el. There's a nekuda, just one more nekuda I want to read, that Rabbi Nachman says that the ikr nekuda of tainus is the same thing as the shir pashut kafel meshulush meruba. The aleph beis, the aleph beis gimel, the aleph beis gimel dalid. The fact that we start and then we have to return back to draw more strength, and then we go further and then we have to retreat back for even more strength. It's the secret of sequential growth, incremental growth, where I make one step and then I don't have the strength to get to the next step. I take one step in the tainus and I lose koach. And then in order to draw out more koach, I have to return even further back to draw out more energy to now take 2 steps. And then once I hit the limit of 2 steps, I have to retreat back even farther into the past to uncover the capacity of a 3rd step. And then I retreat backwards again, each and every day, adding upon the building blocks of the previous days to reveal the secret that all of the past experiences and the emptiness and all of those things are revealed to be the stepping stone. This is from Siach Sarfei Kodesh. And this is just an incredible thing when it comes to the death of Rabbi Nosson, whose entire inyan was Yom Kippurim. V'hinei al Shabbos shelifnei pitiraso ba'elav shenis Rabbi Akiva Ze'ev. Or rather, we'll start here. After these things, Nichnas Morino Rabbi Nosson Zal Kedarcha Kadosh Inyan LeInyan. Rabbi Nosson started speaking the way that he would typically speak, where he would go from one thing to the other in his kind of associative thinking. To the point that Rabbi Nosson was inflamed, that there was a fire burning in Rabbi Nosson. And he screamed in this lashon, "Ve'afal pikein nimsa gavoa me'al gavoa kedusha ne'elama v'nistara kodesh hakadashim." That nevertheless, in spite of that, there rests higher than high, a hidden, concealed level of holiness, the holy of holies, the Kohen Gadol k'shahayat tzarich lichanus l'sham, that when the Kohen Gadol needed to enter into that Holy of Holies, hayat tzarich lahapshit kol begadim hayakarim. He had to get rid of all of the beautiful clothes. He had to get rid of all of the levushim. Rak ketoines bad kodesh yilbashu michnase bad yihu al basro. There was only the singular ketoines bad, that secret of the bedidus ha'elyona, of his spoidedus. V'amar et ha'pasuk hazeh benigun shel kaira b'yom kippur. And Rabbi Nassan screamed out this call in the nigun of Yom Kippurim. Again, v'afal pikein, it means even though something has happened that seems to take me away from that holiness, nevertheless, there's a way of entering into that holiness, and it was sung in the secret of Yom Kippurim. Rabbi Meir Yehuda Zalmei Breslov hayaragil gamten lasaper. Rabbi Meir Yehuda would also repeat this story over and over. Ki gam hu nichnas az el beis moreno Rav Nassan, because he also went into Rabbi Nassan. Ubevo el Pesach, and when he arrived at the entrance, v'hayanishma merachuk as adavarim ha'ela yoitzim mipiv hakadosh kalapid eish, and he heard these words exiting the mouth of Rabbi Nassan like a pillar of fire. V'nisha omed al amdo umakomo. He stood frozen in his place. V'yar lelechas lioter le'eskar v'lashulchan, and he was afraid to move in any further. V'hine al Shabbos shelifnei petiraso, the Shabbos before Rabbi Nassan's death. Ba'elav shenis Rabbi Akiva Zev. Rabbi Akiva Zev returned to Rabbi Nassan, whose entire Indian is Yom Kippurim of Slicha. Ubelel Shabbos acher hasuda, and on the Friday night after the Suda, diber oid hapam me avodas hakohen gadol me Yom Kippur v'hislavus gadol v'noira. He spent a lot of time and energy speaking about the avodah of Yom Kippurim with a profound level of excitement. V'hizkir az kama tevois mehapiut shebeseder ha'avodah, and he spoke out a number of the words from the Seder ha'avodah. Nechnas lemakom shenichnas v'amad b'makom she'amad. He entered in where he entered in, and he stood where he stood. V'od kama tevos, and a few more words. U'b'shavua she'achar zeh niftar. And after this week, after that time, Rabbi Nassan was nifter a week later. V'yatza nishmaso be'elu atevos, and his neshama left with these words on his lips: Chanun hamarbe l'sloyach b'yoim ha'asiri l'chodesh teves. V'muvan mikol zeh, what we can understand from all of this, ki nimtza bo mitzad nishmasoi gam kol atzlicha v'akapara shel yom ha'asiri me'aser semei tshuva, that what Rabbi Nassan brought down through his neshama was the secret of forgiveness of the aser semei tshuva and the secret of Yom Kippurim. Ki harbe balei tshuva shebevadai niskaper lehem avanosechem na'asa al yedei dibur v'svarav hakadoshim shehisher acher of kemuva, because who knows how many balei tshuva have found rectification and redemption through the books that Rabbi Nassan himself has left after him. Velule de mistafina. And if I wasn't worried about saying this, I would say, Hayisi Omer shezehu gam shmo hakadosh gematria mechuvan mamish mispar minyan atevos Chanun amar belitzlayach. That Rabbi Nassan's name is the gematria of Chanun amar belitzlayach. V'zeh asher gam adoneinu morenu v'rabbeinu anachnu lever makar chachma Moharan zal samach yado alav v'amar alav shu yodea mimenu Yoter Mikulam. Rabbi Nachman gave smicha to Rabbi Nassan, and he said he knew more than any of the others. And the Sefer of Likkutei Tfilos, that are Me'oirim u'machzikim es ish megadol v'ad katan lahato letov l'shuv b'tshuva shlema be'ezras Hashem.